refrain from attending the wedding, she pleaded. She held a strong dislike for me, a high school dropout employed in the construction industry. My sibling is the sole family I possess, yet she threatened to call off the marriage if I were present. Please refrain from further involvement, she implored. Wishing for my sibling's happiness, I had no option but to acquiesce to her request. However, where was the groom's sibling? My absence caused the wedding to descend into disorder. My name is Ethan Smith. One morning during my day off, I received a phone call from my younger sibling, Jake. Hey, Ethan, you have the day off today, right? Yeah, I was actually asleep. I listened to him as I got out of bed and made my way to the bathroom. I have met someone whom I wish to marry, and I would like you to meet her, he said. I was taken aback and now fully awake. I was overjoyed to see my sibling all grown up. Jake and I had always been there for each other. Our mother divorced when we were young, worked on her own, and provided for us. I barely recall anything about our father, as he was seldom at home. I often took care of Jake, who was still in daycare while I was in middle school, in place of our mother, who arrived home late from work. Sorry, Ethan, I have to go to work again. Here's some dinner. Heat it up and eat it with Jake, she would say. Understood. However, I will give him a bath first. These days, he falls asleep in the middle of dinner. All right, thank you, Ethan. One day, our tranquil existence, the tranquility of my life, was disrupted when our mother made the decision for us to visit our grandparents' residence. She entrusted us to their care and never returned. Jake, who was still very young, felt disoriented without our mother's presence and wept every night. During those moments, I entertained him with stories from books, held his hand as we slept, and diverted his attention away from his sorrows. Where's Mom? Will she return today? He inquired. It always pained me to hear that, and I cannot recall when I started responding. I am unaware. Despite their anger towards our mother, our grandparents raised us with affection. I still reminisce about the joy I felt when warm meals were prepared for me each day. As I gradually accepted that our mother would not come back, I realized that I was the sole protector of Jake. When Jake began attending elementary school and encountered some local bullies who tormented him, I frightened them away by brandishing the broom our grandmother always used. Whoa, this guy's older sibling is insane. Flee. The reason I contemplated learning boxing was due to a strong desire to become stronger and safeguard my younger brother, Jake. Unfortunately, there were no boxing gyms available in our rural hometown in Kansas. Instead, our grandfather took me fishing on his days off. Standing before the vast sea, I felt incredibly small. As I cast my fishing line into the water, a sense of tranquility washed over me, which was uncommon in my hectic life. I developed an affinity for fishing and began leaving Jake under the care of our grandmother to indulge in fishing trips with our grandfather. My grandfather, I started going every week, and Mr. Brown, one of my grandfather's fishing companions, also became a friend. I secretly believed that if my father was still alive, he would be around the same age as Mr. Brown, and it always brought me joy when I saw him. What are your aspirations for the future, Ethan, when you reach adulthood? Mr. Brown inquired while we were fishing. Well, I aspire to become a regular office employee, earn a living so that my younger brother and grandparents can have a more comfortable life, I replied. Ethan, you possess a heart as vast as this ocean. You'll do just fine. Just keep giving your best effort, he reassured me. Those words of his have rescued me on numerous occasions since then. When I commenced high school, I dedicated myself to studying diligently in order to earn money. Then one day, my grandmother collapsed. My grandmother was admitted to the hospital, and shortly after, my grandfather also fainted and passed away. We managed to arrange a modest funeral after explaining our circumstances to the staff at the local funeral home. Knowing that our grandmother couldn't attend, my brother Jake suggested that we visit the fishing spot to search for Mr. Brown, as he believed that Grandpa would feel lonely. When we informed Mr. Brown about our grandfather's sudden demise, He promptly made arrangements and attended the funeral the following day. Ethan, I apologize for causing you concern. I will recover soon. My grandmother, who was unable to attend the funeral, appeared disheartened after my grandfather's passing. Take care of yourself in the hospital. We am doing well at home. Jake will be attending middle school next year. He's reached the appropriate age. I assured her. Well then, there are some things I should inform you about, Ethan. She responded, and while she was hospitalized, she shared with me details regarding household and financial matters. However, just when we believed she was recovering, her condition suddenly worsened and she passed away. I had to leave high school in order to work at a construction site and support both Jake and myself. I'm also planning to find a part-time job, Jake said. You can't have a part-time job while you're in middle school. You should concentrate on your studies, I replied. But I can deliver newspapers, he argued. It's all right, I'm earning enough. Don't worry, I reassured him. Jake continued to offer his assistance by working part-time. I want you to focus on your education, get into a reputable school, and attend college so that you won't have to worry about work in the future. I don't mind working as much as necessary for that, I told him. Upon hearing this, Jake finally started prioritizing his studies, gained admission to a prestigious high school, and steadily progressed to college. Now he is employed at a top-tier company and has found a woman whom he wishes to marry. As his older brother, I couldn't be more delighted. May I bring my future spouse to your apartment on your next date off? Jake inquired. Here? All right, I'll make sure to tidy up. I'm looking forward to it, I replied. On my subsequent day off, I anxiously met Jake's fiancée, Emily Garcia, for the first time. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. I am Ethan, Jake's elder brother. Please come inside, I greeted. Hello there. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. My name is Ethan, and I am the older brother of Jake's. Please come inside. I extended a warm welcome to her. It's delightful to meet you as well. Do you reside in this place? She inquired. Yes, indeed. This happens to be my brother's apartment, Jake replied, as she appeared slightly puzzled. However, I believe she simply wasn't accustomed to entering a bachelor's living space, so she carried on with the conversation. I do apologize for the cramped quarters. Given that I work at a construction site and typically only return home to sleep, I don't mind the limited space. I never anticipated that Jake would bring his girlfriend here, I remarked. I had the pleasure of meeting Emily through a client, and we are actually planning to become engaged soon, Jake revealed. Witnessing my brother's confidence, I genuinely felt joyous about their impending engagement. Emily, perhaps due to her reserved nature, didn't say much and simply maintained an awkward smile. It seemed she may come from a prosperous family. While we were engaged in conversation, Jake's phone began to ring. Apologies, it's a work call, he said before leaving the room. Finally, Emily spoke up. You mentioned that you work at a construction site, Ethan. Which university did you attend? She inquired. In reality, I started working after my grandparents passed away, and I had to assume a parental role in caring for Jake. Consequently, I dropped out of high school, I explained. So you didn't complete high school? She asked. That is correct. Unlike Jake, I never had much affinity for studying, and I have been employed in the same occupation ever since, I stated. I had no idea that Jake's brother had dropped out of high school, she uttered with an audible sigh of disappointment. Even now, I don't regret forgoing my education. But having experienced the challenges that life has thrown at me, I have learned valuable lessons along the way. The harsh reality of society's non-acceptance of my status as a high school dropout brought about a sudden wave of anxiety, as I worried about potentially causing trouble for my brother. I assumed, Ethan, that you must have a prestigious occupation, given Jake's accomplishments, but it appears I was mistaken, she stated. A prestigious profession, something that is now unattainable. All I request is that you refrain from interfering with our happiness. I have no intention of doing so. My only desire is for Jake to be happy, I expressed, noticing the slight upward turn of her lips and the forced smile that accompanied it. It was evident that she was putting on a facade. As Jake returned, she once again fell silent. I wondered if Jake was aware of her behavior, but I was unsure how to communicate this to him. "Ethan, thank you for spending time with us today, especially on your day off. I am glad you had the opportunity to meet her," Jake said, radiating joy. Not long after, I received an email announcing their official engagement. Then, approximately 1 week before the wedding, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Emily. "Hello, it's Emily from the other day. Do you recall me?" Hearing her voice instantly reminded me of our previous encounter, causing a slight unease within me. "Of course I remember you. Is there something wrong?" I inquired. "I have a small favor to ask of you today," she replied. "A favor for me? Is it some sort of surprise for the wedding? If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know," I cheerfully responded, feeling uplifted by the I contemplated offering assistance, specifically regarding the upcoming wedding. She inquired if it would be possible for me not to attend. "Pardon me? Not attend? I cannot fathom the idea of not being present for Jake's wedding. I am his sole relative. You may not be aware, but my father holds a prominent position as a senior executive at a bank. It is frowned upon for him to participate in a ceremony where the other party lacks parents or relatives. Hence, we pondered the notion of hiring actors to fulfill those roles. Actors? There exists a service that provides individuals to portray the roles of families and relatives. They will attend upon request. Therefore, we contemplated pursuing that option, and Jake is agreeable to this. Well, ultimately, the wedding is intended for me. I plan to discuss this matter with him. Thus, could you kindly inform Jake that you have a scheduling conflict? No, please do so. I highly doubt Jake would consent to such an arrangement. I desire to celebrate him as well. If we do not proceed with this plan, we might encounter difficulties in hosting the wedding. Convincing my father to approve of our union was already challenging enough. Therefore, please refrain from further interference. Are you referring to the brother of your future spouse as an interference? There is a brief pause on the other end of the line, followed by a slight sigh. I simply failed to comprehend why you, lacking any notable education or respectable occupation, feel entitled to attend. Frankly, it would be a source of embarrassment for us. With that statement, she abruptly ended the call. I was left utterly shocked. For the first time, I experienced a sense of shame. Admittedly, I am not an impressive individual, having dropped out of high school, and it seemed that even obtaining approval for their marriage was a struggle due to my presence. I didn't intend to cause any embarrassment to Jake. Avoiding that was my main goal. Therefore, I made the decision to give Jake a call. "Hey, then it's appropriate for you to make the call. What's going on?" "Actually, it's about the wedding. I have a work commitment on that day that I cannot miss. I apologize, but I won't be able to attend." "What? Why? I thought you had cleared your schedule for that day." Yes, I had. As the on-site supervisor, it was difficult for me to take a day off, but I made arrangements for that day. I considered my co-workers' opinions, who said, "You have to go on that day. Congratulate Jake for us," and I experienced a surge of emotions. I am unable to get out of it. Since I am the supervisor, I cannot leave. I understand. That is disappointing. However, if you're able to make it, even if it's just for a short while, please come. I want you to be there. Understood. If I finish my work early, I will be there. Congratulations, Jake. Yeah, thank you. Promise me, all right? After ending the phone call, tears continued to flow down my face as I contemplated Jake's emotions. The fact that he desired my presence at his wedding, despite my imperfections as his brother, was somewhat comforting. It felt as though I had regained a small piece of my wounded self-esteem that Emily had shattered. On the wedding day, with nowhere in particular to go, I decided to go fishing in order to escape the suffocating loneliness at home. It's something I hadn't done much of since I started working, but I always had a favorite fishing spot. It's a location where I wouldn't encounter any of my colleagues. As I cast my fishing line, the overwhelming emotion caused me to well up once again. I found myself in solitude, desiring a moment to freely shed tears. I longed to release my feelings of frustration, loneliness, and sympathy for Jake into the vastness of the ocean. After allowing myself a good cry, I suddenly felt a presence nearby. When I turned around, I immediately recognized a figure standing there, holding a fishing rod. "Oh, Mr. Brown." Swiftly, I wiped away my tears with my sleeve and turned away once more. Mr. Brown wore a nostalgic smile as he greeted me. "Ethan, it has been quite some time since your last visit. What has brought such sadness upon you?" "Ha! Your powers of observation remain as keen as ever." Feeling embarrassed that he had witnessed my tears, I proceeded to confide in Mr. Brown, sharing everything about why I was unable to attend the wedding. I recounted the story, alternating between laughter and tears. If anyone could bring solace to my troubled heart, it would be Mr. Brown. I had a strong intuition about that. "That is truly difficult, Ethan. You are a remarkable individual. There is no reason for you to feel ashamed. I understand this better than anyone else. Please refrain from making me cry any further." "Hey, Ethan, do you believe this is an appropriate place for shedding tears? However, if I were to show up, wouldn't I disrupt Jake's happiness? Do you genuinely believe your brother will be truly content if his elder brother does not attend his once-in-a-lifetime wedding?" "Well, Jake holds you in higher regard than you realize." I recalled what Jake had expressed to me. He had said he wanted me there, even if I arrived late. "You should go. Come now, get moving." "Thank you, Mr. Brown." "All right, I shall go." I hurried back home to prepare myself for my dear brother. Each and every word spoken by Mr. Brown encouraged me to take action. As I proceeded forward, I found myself at the wedding venue where Jake and Emily awaited me in the backstage room. "Bro, you made it on time. I'm so relieved," exclaimed Jake with joy. However, Emily's expression suddenly turned sour. "Well, this is inconvenient," she muttered. Curious about her remark, I asked why it was inconvenient for me, her brother, to attend. She explained that she had already invited someone else to take my place, since I had initially declined the invitation. She seemed to imply that this replacement was some sort of fake relative. As the time for the wedding entrance drew near, Emily grew increasingly irritable and anxious. All I wanted was to congratulate Jake on his special day. When I expressed this sentiment to Emily, she finally snapped. "Ethan, this isn't what we agreed upon, is it? Why won't you listen to me? We're running out of time." Frustrated, she criticized our brotherly bond. "I'm exhausted by it. How would it appear if people discovered that the groom's brother is someone like you, a high school dropout?" Emily even yelled at me in front of Jake, threatening to have our father kick me out if I made a move. Suddenly, the backstage door swung open forcefully, and Emily's father entered, looking flustered. "Emily, where is Ethan?" he asked. Confused, Emily inquired about what was happening. Her father explained that one of their bank's major clients had contacted them, expressing their intention to close their account. The bank was in a state of panic. When her father asked for the reason, they revealed that it was due to her disrespectful attitude towards me, Ethan. They suspected it was a matter of dignity. Emily was taken aback by this revelation, exclaiming, "What? Me?" Her father confirmed the client's claim, stating that unless she changed her attitude, they would cease all transactions with their bank. Stared at me intensely. "Ethan, have you done something, like spreading gossip to harm my reputation on social platforms or anything similar?" she inquired. "I have no clue what you're talking about. I don't comprehend how my name got involved in this." I responded, completely unaware of the situation. Emily's demeanor? "Breaking the agreement? You mean the reason you suddenly couldn't come was because Emily arranged it?" Jake questioned, suspicion creeping into his tone. That's a terrible thing to say. Emily started, perhaps searching for an excuse. I interrupted whatever she was about to say. I made the decision not to come because she called me a disgrace, but I realized I was mistaken and hurried over. I confessed. Hold on, Ethan. Jake was astonished. Emily, did you inform my brother that he's a disgrace? That's because Emily stumbled, struggling to find her words. Disregarding her flustered state, Jake spoke firmly. Thanks to Ethan, I managed to successfully complete college. I can't express enough gratitude towards him. I'm sorry, Ethan. I am truly sorry. It's all right, Jake. You don't have to apologize to me, I reassured him. Then Jake glared at Emily. Emily, we will have to cancel this wedding. Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Garcia? If it is necessary for them to forgive us, I have no issue with it, her father replied. But wait, Emily attempted to argue, but her father had already departed. He probably had to handle matters with the bank, and so the wedding dissolved without the bride and groom even making an appearance. According to Jake, Emily found herself unemployed from the bank due to the loss of their trust, and her father faced consequences, being transferred and demoted to another state. Distraught, Emily turned to Jake for support, but he no longer had any romantic feelings for her. Learning about Emily's actions towards me and realizing her true character had a profound impact on him. It seemed that her colleagues also held a low opinion of her, and a message from a significant client was the final blow. There were numerous negative rumors surrounding her, and it appeared unlikely that she would be able to recover from this downfall. Jake explained, I understand. However, we should be grateful that we discovered her true nature before you two got married, I suggested. Yes, that's true. By the way, aren't you curious about the identity of the major client? I suppose so. Who could it be? I work in the construction industry, so I don't know anyone who could have such an impact on a bank. Actually, there is one person who comes to mind, Jake said. He had investigated the potential major clients, and one of the chairman's names from a company seemed familiar. Do you happen to know Mr. Brown's first name? He asked. Mr. Brown. I remember our grandfather used to refer to him by his first name, often calling him Tom, Tommy, or even Thomas. Yes, I believe it's Thomas, I confirmed. Bingo! Did you inform Mr. Brown about the wedding, Ethan? Yes, I did, but Jake had a wide grin on his face as he shared information about Mr. Brown. It turned out that Mr. Brown was the chairman of a major corporation, a corporation with which their bank conducts business. On my next day off, I decided to go fishing once again. Despite the sense of urgency in my heart, my legs were not keeping up, and I stumbled my way to my usual fishing spot. Mr. Brown, hello there, did the wedding go smoothly? Mr. Brown was smiling widely at his typical location. Mr. Brown, Ethan, you have been shedding tears quite frequently lately. You were not such a crybaby before. I apologize for burdening you with my grievances. Burden? You are my fishing companion, Ethan. I care about Jake just as much as you do. It is only natural to assist a friend, so do not worry about it. Besides, you should not be preoccupied with anything while fishing. I nodded and sat down beside Mr. Brown, casting my fishing line into the water. All of that seemed like a distant memory as I returned to my usual busy work life. Well, it is not exactly the same as before. There were alterations occurring around me. Mr. Smith, I made too much of this. Would you like some? My typical fast food lunch had recently become more intriguing. That is because the new secretary has been finding excuses to bring me homemade lunches. She was Mr. Brown's granddaughter, and I vaguely recalled her mentioning that she used to be the little girl Mr. Brown brought along when we went fishing. You were my first infatuation, and I could never forget. I cannot believe you just remembered me. She pouted as she said this, but the next moment, she was smiling. I had grown fond of her cheerful demeanor, and now she had become someone relevance is significant to me. I informed Jake about my romantic partner through electronic mail, and that very evening I received a telephone call from him after a considerable period of time. Present me to your romantic partner, buddy. I will also bring my romantic partner. Evidently, Jake also had a new romantic partner. The act of fishing, which my grandfather instructed me in, brought comfort to my youthful mind in the past. Now, it has evolved into a connection with the individuals I hold dear. It is a sunlit day today. Based on the weather prediction, it appears that we are in for a few days of cloudless skies. I intend to extend an invitation to my significant other for a fishing outing with me this upcoming weekend.